Hello, my name is Jalan Jubair, and this is my poster presentation for Psych 3051, Physiological Psychology, titled Can Methamphetamine-Related Deficits to Executive Function be Rescued Through Neuromodulation? Executive functioning is an umbrella term that refers to the brain's wider management system, allowing you to perform behaviors such as selecting the right response, managing strategies, and controlling inhibitions. When these systems are weakened, it can lead to impulsivity and difficulty managing one's life. The prelimbic cortex is largely considered the seat of executive function and is a key area of interest for this proposed experiment. In Australia, methamphetamine addiction affects roughly 364,000 people, with relapse rates around 61 to 85%, partly due to its effects on the brain's areas implicated in executive function. In rodents, methamphetamine alters the wider prefrontal cortex, including the prelimbic cortex within, and is parvalbumin into neurons. This shunts prefrontal network output, causing a cascade of inactivity in executive function-related regions. This idea of a network of systems required for cognitive control is best captured by the parallel distributed processing or PDP model. In essence, the brain is in constant competition between automatic habits and voluntary goals, where the prefrontal cortex ensures goal-directed actions succeed by boosting relevant pathways. However, problems arise when this system is damaged. The rodent Stroop task, established by Haddon, Kilcross, and George, is a task designed to test executive functioning in rodents, analogous to the Stroop task used for humans. This task will be further explained in the methods, but the gist of it is this. Rodents are presented with two cues in one sensory modality, indicating whether left or right lever presses lead to reward in one context. In another context, this is repeated with two more cues in a different sensory modality. Afterwards, stimuli is compounded to form either congruent, for example, both left levers indicating cues, or incongruent, a left sound cue with a right visual cue. Rats are then tasked with pressing the correct lever. This conflict resolution and response selection task requires rodents to use higher order cognition to remember which cues lead to which reward in either of the two training contexts. Previous research has implicated the PL's role in successful completion of incongruent trials in the rodent Stroop task by pharmacologically inactivating the prelimbic cortex. Chen and colleagues found that cocaine-related deficits in executive functioning, specifically inhibitory control, could be rescued through optogenetic stimulation. The proposed experiment asks the question if meth-related deficits to executive functioning can be restored to normal levels via neural manipulation. More specifically, it aims to investigate whether optogenetic stimulation of the prelimbic cortex in meth-sensitized rodents rescues incongruent trial accuracy in the rodent Stroop task to rates comparable to healthy controls. Based on previous research, the current experiment hypothesizes two things: that meth-sensitized rats will perform worse than healthy controls, and that optogenetic stimulation in meth-sensitized rats will rescue incongruent trial accuracy to levels comparable to healthy controls. Chen and colleagues' 2013 study present the most convincing evidence that this will indeed be the case. This experiment will employ a 2x2 between subjects factorial design, with factor A being drug history, methamphetamine versus saline, while factor B is optogenetic stimulation, on versus off. The dependent variable will measure task accuracy, correct lever presses, on incongruent trials. 32 long Evans rats with 8 in each condition will be food restricted to 85% of free feeding weight to maintain motivation for food rewards. The specific rodent has been chosen due to its use in comparable drug and rodent Stroop task experiments. Rodents will first receive stereotactic surgery, receiving bilateral injections of channel rhodopsin 2 via viral vector to the prelimbic cortex, alongside fiber optic implants to allow for activation of the optogenetic protocol. Following recovery, rats will either receive methamphetamine at 5 mg per kilogram or saline once daily for 14 days, followed by 10 days of abstinence. This procedure, used by Armenta Resendez and colleagues, establishes hyperactivity of the PL associated with methamphetamine use. The rodent Stroop task first involves pre-training rats to approach a magazine that dispenses food, and in this experiment will be done twice, once in each context. Following this, rats are trained that a lever press leads to food reward. Now that rats are acclimated to food magazines and pressing levers, the training of the rodent Stroop task actually begins. In this learning phase, rats are trained in context A using auditory cues. As the table shows, a tone means that a left lever press leads to food, while a click means that a right lever press leads to food. Subsequently, in context B, rats are trained on visual cues. A steady light means a left lever press leads to reward, while a flashing light indicates that a right lever press leads to food. After biconditional training is complete, rats are tested in both context A and B with congruent and incongruent trials, 6 each. Importantly, the correct lever press is determined by the context they are in and its associated cue. Specifically, a rat presented with a tone and a flash in context A means that the left lever is the correct response. Regarding optogenetics, those in the optogenetics on condition will receive 10 milliseconds of 1 Hz, 473 nanometer light at the start of the response window to excite neurons in the PL. As a control, those in the optogenetic off condition will receive non-excitatory yellow light to control for any confounds associated with optogenetics. Task accuracy will be measured as the number of correct lever presses on incongruent rodent strip task trials. This data will be analyzed via a two-way ANOVA, investigating main effects, interactions, and simple effects. To recap, the procedure is as follows. Rats receive optogenetic surgery and viral vectors, recover, and then undergo the drug sensitization procedure. Following this, they are trained on magazine and lever presses, then biconditional cue discrimination before presentation of incongruent and congruent stimuli with optogenetic stimulation is either on or off. The proposed experiment expects a main effect of optogenetic stimulation increasing task accuracy, mainly being driven by the large difference between meth-sensitized conditions. It also expects a main effect of drug history in terms of methamphetamine sensitized rats performing worse than saline controls. Additionally, an interaction between the level of improvement in task performance from optogenetics being dependent on whether or not rodents have been sensitized to methamphetamine is predicted. Simple effects analysis expects a difference between methamphetamine sensitized rats receiving optogenetics and those that do not. To conclude, the proposed experiment further validates the PDP model, emphasizing the role of the PFC and PL within in response selection and conflict resolution. This also demonstrates that the findings of Chen and colleagues, alongside other comparable drug studies, translate over to meth-related deficits too. Additionally, it would further explain how meth-related brain damage can change a person's behavior while reconfirming the physiological effects of drugs of abuse on the brain. In terms of real-world implications, it implies that cognitive deficits associated with drug use are not permanent and can be reversed. However, this experiment is limited in scope, only analyzing a one-time test of executive function. Future research could potentially look at other drugs of abuse and the areas they affect, or other brain areas implicated in drug addiction, such as the VTA or OFC. Lastly, looking at the phenomena such as the shift from liking to craving and drug addictions, the brain areas implicated in this, and how this shift can be reversed, would prove beneficial to larger drug addiction theory. In conclusion, the proposed experiment fills the research gap regarding reversibility of methamphetamine-related cognitive deficits, while providing further evidence to theories such as the PDP model. While previous studies have demonstrated how methamphetamine can hinder in performance, this experiment investigates the permanence of these deficiencies. Thank you for watching.